WRPT session. There are a few matches going on from the previous session, and we'll get to those tables when we can. But for now, on table 2, Jack Schofield, Danny Lees. Jack Schofield, Danny Lees, table 2. On table 3, Carl Sutton, Bradley Ellison. Carl Sutton, Bradley Ellison, table 3. On table 5, Glenn Cahir, Eddie Barker. Glenn Cahir, Eddie Barker, table 5. On table 6, Paul Keepin, Chris Day. Paul Keepin, Chris Day, table 6. On table 7, Glenn Whittemore, Jake McCartney. Glenn Whittemore, Jake McCartney, table 7. On table 9, Scott Gillespie, Lack Baden. Scott Gillespie, Lack Baden, table 9. On table 11, Phil Harrison, Jamie Graham. Phil Harrison, Jamie Graham, table 11. On table 14, Neil Davey, Glenn Hannibal. Neil Davey, Glenn Hannibal, table 14. On table 16, Rob Warren, Christy Caulfield. Rob Warren, Christy Caulfield, table 16. On table 18, Neil Raybone, Phil Parkin. Neil Raybone, Phil Parkin, table 18. On table 19, Matt Cook, Steve Smart. Matt Cook, Steve Smart, table 19. On table 20, Clint Hanson, Richard Gifford. Clint Hanson, Richard Gifford, table 20. And the final match for now on table 1, screen table, Declan Brennan, Shane Thompson. Declan Brennan, Shane Thompson, table 1. We'll get the remaining matches on when we can. Thank you.
Hello and welcome back. What a match we've got here for our last match of the night. Third round match between Declan Brennan and Shane Thompson. Two players right at the top of their game. Declan Brennan ever present in the latter stages. Shane Thompson, who's been a prolific winning machine this season. And that's a pretty good break to get started with.
As I mentioned a moment ago, this one for me is really tough to call. Shane is absolutely flying at the moment and never looks like missing, but a tactical match, and it could frustrate him slightly. As I say, neither player will be keen to take it tactically. You would think that Shane would have the advantage, but conversely, as I say, the rules just seem to be frustrating at the moment. But what a game.
Yeah, and I think not missing kind of sums it up. I mean, I guess that's what everyone's aiming for, but that's kind of been what Shane's been doing. Just such unbelievable consistency.
Cue ball control. This cue with this 9.7mm tip, I just don't know anybody that is able to control a cue ball in the way he does. I mean, it's just mind-blowing that he's got the kind of control he does. But I think just strangely it just helps him. He doesn't play extravagant shots. He's suddenly found a way to connect the dots in the shortest possible way, and just seems to just have the cue ball on a string at all times. And I think the size of the tip's just helping him.
Yeah, I think there's been a fashion in recent years for going smaller and smaller, and I can sort of see the appeal. But yeah, I think there's a lot in what you're saying. Like sometimes just keeping it simple. And it just gives you a little bit more margin for error. I mean, most top players are sort of okay at finding the middle of the cue ball, as we sometimes describe it, but actually with a slightly bigger tip, you don't flick unwanted side on.
I've always said about Shane, his cue action is just so pure. There's so little that can go wrong with it. He's got a classic cue action, and I think one of the best for me. I think a lot of players could study Shane's cue action, and if you try to emulate it, you could find far worse cue actions to follow. It's simple, but the mechanics of it, there's very little that can go wrong. And now he's got this bigger tip. I just think, as I say, it just works for him. He's just found a control of the cue ball that he never really had before. But Declan Brennan, well, he's another one of the top players, the form players. Always, when you see him in an event nowadays, he's going to be amongst the favourites.
Yeah, it seems a long time ago. It wasn't actually that far back, but he won the first event of the season in Blackpool.
And what a break this is. Huge. The red on the left-hand side cushion, I think it flies in off the yellow, and if it does, then this should be a really simple mop-up job.
Yeah, two good breaks to start, isn't it? Shane's break was a monster in the first frame. Declan's done almost as well.
Deck deciding to go yellows, and you could, as I say, make a case for both. It was probably just decided by weather. I think if the yellow was maybe half an inch further up the table, then the red off the back of the yellow is an absolute shoe-in, and probably ends up going for reds. But either one shouldn't pose a problem.
No, and I think we'll see a lot of clearances from the break. If they both continue breaking like this, we know how capable they are from any halfway open position.
Please do like and share this stream. I'm sure there's lots of people out there amongst your friends and family who would love to watch this game. It really is as good as you can get.
Yeah, it's a real bonus having this on the Friday night. You could well have imagined that we'd be streaming this about the same time tomorrow night as the final of this tournament. But as it happens, it's a third round game they've come across each other. Nice shot there, just playing with a bit of reverse side to bring the white through that gap. Not come quite as far as he wanted, but still should be fine. Nice atmosphere building around the room. There's just one more session of matches. This 10:30 session that a number of other people have just been called on as well, so still pretty busy around the rest of the room. Almost slipped past that red, but made enough of a cannon on it that he's held kind of decent position. So purposefully playing that thick. No, I'm not sure he necessarily wanted it that thick, but he was aiming on the thick side to make sure he held position on the white.
Yeah, played it at the perfect weight to give it every chance to go in any harder than that, and I don't think the pocket would have taken it. Judged it really well, and replies to Shane Thompson's breaking dish with one of his own, and as we would expect from this game, the highest of quality. And I said at the top of the show that I think this game is going to be decided by the break, and I still believe that. At the moment, they've both broken huge. And it's only going to take possibly one mistake, one in off, one dry break that could decide this match.
Some time pressure, of course, Nick. You've got your curry on the way, so you need these players to play at a lively pace to get this in before dinner. Don't think you should have too much trouble with that. Both of them look pretty focused on the job in hand. Shane's breaking the first frame was absolutely massive. I'd love to replicate that again here. Going for the straight down the middle head-on break.
Cue ball.
Well, straight down the middle, but not straight back. Just slipped off the front ball, just caught that slightly off angle. That's why he's found the corner pocket.
And such are the finest of margins in this game that one single shot could decide and dictate the result of this game. I really expect this to be of the highest quality. But a little bit of work to be done here. Obviously, ball in hand behind the line, but only one visit for Declan, so he just needs to pay a little attention.
Yeah, this is not as easy an opportunity as the last two have been. Whether he goes reds or yellows, there's a bit of a cluster on the left-hand side. The fact he's got cue ball in hand means that it's maybe possible to manufacture an angle into that cluster, but it's got a bit of work to do to get this open. Just added advantage if you can get one against the serve, particularly after Shane went in off like that. It'll be him to break in the next frame. Opens up the possibility of going two ahead.
So he needs a plan for the yellow on the left-hand cushion, the one that's in this half of the table, and pretty sure the red's too close to it, so he can't get through to the potting angle. Maybe he'll pot it off the back of the red, which may mean that, just looking now, it's possible that he doesn't need to develop it. If he can get to the angle to find that point on the cushion, then it might be okay.
Yeah, you kind of prefer to do that because all the other balls go at the moment. You don't really want to risk tying one up.
This looks just about perfect. And just looking now to see whether the yellow passes, the other yellow above the cue ball passes the 8 ball to top left, makes his job slightly easier if it does. Oh, wow. Missed the red altogether. Well, that is an error in judgment.
Yeah, it was never a formality, that shot, because the red was quite a long way away from the cushion, but yeah, you wouldn't expect him to have missed it altogether. He was just trying to get, didn't want to hit it too thick, just trying to get a nice thin slice on it, but not as thin as that.
Bit of a blow of the cheeks from Shane. Not absolutely enthralled by what he sees.
No, although I think it'll look a lot better from standing at the table than it was looking from his chair a moment ago.
Yeah, be surely happy to have a chance.
And actually, I mean, there is a pocket for everything, although maybe not in perfect position. It's a fairly presentable opportunity. Declan's opened up the only cluster of balls on the table.
I think he'd like to take this ball to bottom left as his opener, but he knows he's running into the yellow, which is just to the side of it, so you'd have to judge that really well, and that could go wrong, and I think that's why he's hesitating, and it's why ultimately he's going to take this red long, and this is a risk, and that is not going to go. Didn't give it the chance.
No, I can understand his thinking there, because that one afforded the perfect position. Once that goes in, then he'd be nicely in for all the others, but one of those ones where it's all on that, all eggs in the basket on the first shot, as it were.
Was he playing that with just a hint of safety? Has he left anything here? Maybe can just turn this cue ball over past the red to get to the potting angle, and he could.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to put words into his mouth. Maybe he was playing it with safety, but it felt like it was going to be lucky not to leave some kind of shot. I think it was, unfortunately for him, just a difficult opening shot that didn't quite make. So a second opportunity required for Declan, but the ball's in a much better position than they were a moment ago.
That was a pot I expected Shane to get closer to. He hit the cushion probably 5 or 6 inches.
Yeah, these pockets are moderately forgiving, but not. You can never hit a ball that far down the cushion and expect it to drop. So even though it looks like Declan's on the one to the middle pocket, he doesn't really want to be taking that one first, so wants to get the cue ball back somewhere near where he was before he played that shot.
This looks pretty perfect. Just drop it into the middle pocket, just hold the cue ball on the left hand side cushion for the black into the right centre.
So in the background there, the match between Jack Whelan and Liam White being called out.
Yeah, that's another big game that could have easily made the stream table.
Yeah, you imagine whichever of those players gets through will hopefully have the opportunity to see tomorrow.
Well, Shane had a look at the table and maybe on reflection chose the wrong path. Possibly should have taken the chance and potted that one to bottom left and given himself an opportunity in the frame. But
yeah, he was going to have a difficult shot at some point. Like, it didn't have to be the first one, but if he'd have taken the easy one bottom left, then I think the next one was going to be tough. So you sort of understand the dilemma he found himself in.
But now you have to say it's advantage to Declan. 2-1 up, taking one against the break, and he breaks off in frame number 4, breaking from the left hand side. Wow, that cue ball, I've got to say there was a bit of fortune in that one. The cue ball's tracked across and just caught the knuckle, so close to going in off. Yeah,
that wasn't his best break in a number of respects. Look at where the balls have finished at.
Look at this.
All a bit clustered.
Goodness me. How on earth has that stayed on the table? Just literally a case of millimetres.
The most difficult opportunity we've seen so far after the break. There's a lot of work to be done if he's going for an attacking option.
If you think back to the last frame when Shane Thompson dumped the cue ball straight into the pocket, and little things like that can make such a difference. It's just the run of the ball because Declan was so close to doing exactly the same thing. So he nominates yellows, and he's on yellows because he's already potted a yellow off the break.
Yeah, which turned out to be a real saving grace there, because he wanted to be on the yellows. That meant they could play a safety shot straight off without having to go for a pot. He's not quite got that right. He's looking for the containing shot where he wanted to get the white on and off the cushion, tucked up tight behind that red. So unsurprisingly, no attempt at a clearance from Declan, just happy to promote the ball into a slightly better position. If he didn't like the position when he came to the table in the last frame, Shane's going to like it even less, the position he finds himself in now. One of those positions where you're kind of happy to be at the table, but the yellows are quite significantly better right now.
Interestingly, just behind Declan Brennan, he's got a couple of interested onlookers. One of them is the man who's always alongside him, his manager Mark O'Hare, but also part of his now management team, the guy just to the left of Declan there, that's John Delaney. Interestingly, John Delaney's a former board member of UEFA. He's the former vice president of the Football Association of Ireland, and he's been following Declan over the last few weeks and watching his progress, and I've seen him at the last couple of events watching on, and I think he's, as I say, he's becoming part of Declan's management team, which is interesting.
Yeah, that sounds like a pretty good guy to have in your corner.
Yeah.
I imagine he'll be liking what he's seen so far. His man 2-1 up and looking pretty good touch so far. So it's going to be a real banana skin for whoever loses it. It's going to be pretty annoying to be dumped out on the Saturday night. Both of these players, form players this season, who could well have expected to get to the final. Still not really a lot to choose between them based on what we've seen. Declan ahead obviously by the odd frame, but Shane took the opportunity in the frame that he had it. Really the only thing separating them was that one missed pot from Shane in the last frame. Trying to thread the red through a gap that was perhaps a little bit smaller than the ball there. Not too bad, at least he's opened the pocket up. Sometimes when you try and squeeze a ball through and don't quite make it, you end up potting your opponents, which would have been a worse outcome. And the table back to a bit more of a 50-50 position than it was a moment ago. A couple of shots back, you'd have said the yellows were in a much better position, but now things a bit more opened up. Yeah, Declan, I was about to say that. Surely it was a foul. Declan immediately holding up his hand, just glanced Shane's red ball on his way through. So from a not such a promising position a moment ago, Shane Thompson in with an okay opportunity. Just looking at what he might do with the two reds nearest to the left middle pocket.
Now, does the one just above the cue ball pass into top right? If it does, then suddenly this is a really good opportunity. I think it does, you know.
Yeah, I think that's what he's played for. It's maybe a half an inch short of prime position, but he'll certainly take this. And he's got quite a good angle here. He can either drop onto or cannon the red to the left of the cue ball. So the cannon it was.
Great view above, over the top of Shane's bald pate. His hairless napper. It's all right. He always gets stuck into me about being a slaphead, so it's just good to get one back over him.
You've got him at a slight advantage as you're the man with the microphone right now.
Well, that was a gilt-edged chance there for Shane, and couple misses now, and another really good chance here for Declan. You don't see too much going wrong here.
No, and that's not something Shane wants to be doing. Declan can make his own opportunities. He doesn't want to be gifting him these kind of chances.
No.
Imagine the most difficult shot is going to be getting position on the yellow nearest to the 8 ball. These ones at the top of the table clearly won't present much of a challenge.
And the difference between the players at the moment, well, if Declan finishes his clearance, which I fully expect him to, it's going to be 2 frames, and that would account for those 2 mistakes that Shane's made so far. He's missed a couple of balls and also gone off on the break, and he's had chances.
Yeah, and that's the thing that hurts. It's okay if your opponent's just dished up and you haven't done much wrong, but Shane knows that could well be 3-1 up, whereas it's about to become 3-1 down. Good finish this from Declan. Had to keep control of the white, found the gap to get onto that potentially difficult last yellow. Ultimately ended up making it look pretty easy. Certainly wouldn't write Shane off. It's effectively only 1 break of serve against him, but can well do with getting things finished off this break.
Yeah. This is now a really important frame. We talk about it so much, but it really is. You can see the cue ball just not quite in the centre, just a fraction, a couple of millimetres just across, and it's the same result.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to start getting quite annoying. Like you said, to do that twice in a row, he's clearly hitting it just off straight. It's more common when you see somebody going off once like that they over-adjust and going off on the other side, but he's created almost a carbon copy of his last break.
And again, maybe just
of the head.
Maybe just a touch unfortunate, because there was a ball that went right across the path of the cue ball that on another day blocks it from going into the pocket. When it's your day, and when it's not, it runs across the face and you go straight in off.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to start getting those negative thoughts about it not being your day, but as you say, that can start creeping into your mind, particularly his opponent's last break, as you commented, just came off the jaw, could so easily have gone in off. You suddenly start thinking everything's conspiring against you.
The problem for Shane now is, just a race to 7. He doesn't have time on his side to be able to recover this situation. Declan just needs to take some care now. He's got the yellow, which is just to the left of the red and black. That was a good shot, because now he's nudged that red across to one side. He's opened up the path for that yellow to pass the bottom right, and suddenly this becomes a much simpler finish. Looks perfect.
Yeah, and a great frame for him to win because he'll be breaking in the next frame as well. Starting to look a little bit like one-way traffic right now, although Shane will still have something to say about that. So pinpoint control of the white ball has got Declan onto the black. And the black safely down. He now leads by 4 frames to 1.
Yeah, 4-1. You'd say Declan's a massive favourite from here, but things can change, things can turn. Again, it still only takes one piece of bad luck, one and off, and suddenly at 4-3, a different complexion. Shane just exchanging a few words with his old sparring partner, Rody Bell. Those two would often do battle, played a couple of money matches between themselves when Shane was earlier in his career. I don't think Oli would be too keen to take him on at the moment, the kind of form he's in.
No, I think he's won so many tournaments lately. He was already having trouble finding money matches before that. I don't think it's going to make it any easier if anyone's been watching some of his recent performances.
He's actually got one next weekend down in Thompson. So he's playing Ian Alley. So that could be an interesting game. Ian's got a 5 start to 26 at Shane's venue.
Yeah, I was talking to someone about that the other day. I don't know how I feel about getting a start in a... I've said this to you before. I think the trouble with getting a start is it's almost like you're marking yourself out as second favourite, and if you're not careful, you sort of turn up with that mindset, and then if you see the lead evaporate, you can get yourself under more pressure somehow. Although that said, it's the player of Shane's quality. It's not an easy prospect starting off level, so you can understand why he wants the start. It's been a pretty solid few weekends of it for Shane. He's had this tour 2 weekends ago, the Ultimate Pool Pro Tour last weekend, this tour this weekend, and then a money match next, so keeping himself fully engaged at the weekends.
As always, I'll ask one more time if you could please like and share the stream. If you could click the thumbs up if you're watching on YouTube. There's some close to 500 people watching, and just 8 people have clicked the thumbs up. It would be appreciated if you could do that, and also share the stream if you get the chance, because I know there's a lot of people who would like to watch this enthralling game, which is currently being bossed by Declan Brennan.
Yeah, pretty quick match so far, just over half an hour of play. Declan's over halfway to the victory post. Only 1 or 2 more good shots, but these balls are here for the taking. Right now he's just going to be keen to keep Shane away from the table, even though he's got a comfortable lead. Almost the more valuable thing is that he's got his opponent in his seat relatively cold. Be very keen to keep it that way. In a way, that was a slightly better shot than it looked. It would have been quite easy to nudge into those yellows by mistake, which was something he was mindful of. Just wanted to get the cue ball back in open play in the middle of the table. He's got a little bit more angle than he ideally wanted on this one down the right hand cushion, but it's far enough away from the cushion that you wouldn't see a problem with it. Hit that very pure, found the heart of the pocket. Cue ball twice across to get ideal position on the last red. Prize for which is this simple black hanging over the centre bag.
He is some player. You've got to give it to him. He is top drawer, and in my opinion, has the ability and the temperament to go on to be one of the greats. I think Declan Brennan will end his career going down as one of the best players. I think they'll be mentioning his name with the likes of Mick Hill and Gareth Potts and so on and so forth in years to come. Time will tell, but he's just got everything about him. He's got the right team behind him. He's definitely got the game. He's got the he's not shy of putting in the hours on the table, putting in the work. He's got the right contacts.
Another quality match just being shouted out. Lee Kendall, Dave McNamara. That's another tasty one. One thing Shane's done very well on this run in recent weeks of such good form is to dig in. He hasn't very often ended up a long way behind, but he's not a guy that gives up. He really digs in deep and tries to win from whatever position's in front of him.
Oh, true fighter. Really is.
This is exactly what he needed to get back into the match as well. It's a nice straightforward finish in front of him.
And Shane, really another case of hard work paying off. He really does put in the hours. And hard work, not a word you generally associate with Shane Thompson, but he
no, it's a quality that's maybe not talked about that much. It's quite easy to watch top players and think, oh, they're just so good they don't need to practice. But actually, it doesn't matter who you are. If you don't put the hours in, you do get found out at this level.
Puts in a lot of table time. Archie Broadhead saying a big up to Frankie on the cameras. Absolutely. And Frankie doing a sterling job because he's just sorted our dinner out and got some plates as well. What a lad.
Yeah, very resourceful. We sent him out for the food and he's come back with some crockery and cutlery from someone.
So one back. Use the whole of the pocket. Just dropped it in dead weight. He judged it to perfection, you have to say.
Yeah, he doesn't want to put himself under any more stress. His opponent's already got him under some pressure. That was a very important one. Clearly 6-1 behind. The match would have been over, but it just keeps a toehold in that.
Yeah, really. I mean, that's could just shift the momentum slightly. Is there a twist in the tail yet, or is it going to be plain sailing for Declan? You think Declan should win from here, but as I said before, just one dry break, one error, one in off, anything can just turn the whole game around. Let's see. Same break going from the side. Needs the cue ball. Again, the cue ball was just tracking towards that side cushion. It was safe. It wasn't anywhere near the middle pocket, but it shows that he's not absolutely timing it. He's looking to screw that cue ball straight back up the middle of the table.
Yeah, both players got big, powerful breaks, but seem to be struggling a bit with the cue ball. 2 in-offs in a row for Shane Thompson. 2 not far from in-offs from Declan.
And Declan will line this one up pretty much exactly the same place. It's almost halfway, well, quarter way across table, halfway between centre and cushion. That's what he's trying to do with the break. Much better. Park the cue ball in the middle of the table. And what about that for a result?
Yeah, in a strange sort of way, it's almost quite useful having a practice. When you put the black off the break and you step up to break next, you're kind of fresh in the mindset of breaking. Pulled out a monster break to follow up with.
That was just perfection. Cue ball just hopped and parked itself right in the middle of the table. And if you can break like that every time, then you're going to win lots and lots of matches. If you could bottle that and sell it, you'd be a millionaire.
Particularly when you've got the quality of Declan clearing up afterwards. It's no good having a big break if you don't make the most of it, but he's a guy that very frequently indeed makes the most of it. Well, he used all the pocket there. Hit the cushion a long way down. Uncharacteristic misjudgment, but somehow the ball knocked 3 times and still went in. This will be a good end to his day's work. This will be his last match of the evening. He'll be back on for the last 32 at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. If he goes on to win this, he'll go to bed pretty happy the way things are currently going. Just 2 frames away from victory at the moment. The kind of effortless style. Shane Thompson always looks to be under a bit more pressure, but sort of handles it. Declan has a somewhat more carefree style around the table, both equally as effective as each other. Both guys that think a lot about the game, even though it might just look like it's effortless to them. Even after a match, you hear them both thinking about things they could have done differently and looking for improvement.
Just had to reroute slightly. I think he just had a bit more angle than was ideal, and I think he's tried to land on this ball down the right-hand side. Could be wrong. I think can just drop this into the middle and hold for the gap, but may again just have a little too much angle. So not quite as straightforward as it was, or it looked like it could be. Just ran out of position slightly. More than good enough to recover the situation, especially when that red clearly passes below the black into right centre.
Yeah, it's deceptive, isn't it? When you look at it from this camera angle, you'd never think that went, but the way he's played it, it obviously does.
Just needs to beware with position. I think he can just run up into the gap between yellow and black, so formality now.
Yeah, and this is really solid stuff from Declan, as we've seen so many times before. Just one visit pull.
Yeah, this was a big frame. Very, very big frame. It gets him on the hill. He is now 6 frames to 2 ahead.
Yeah, and it's pretty hard to see a way back from 6-2 when your opponent's playing that well. A few other scores from around the room. Matt Braley that we were talking about earlier, 5-4 up against Callan Singleton. 2 very solid players there. Sean Story 5-4 against 2012 world champion John Rowe. And Aaron Davis, he's been playing very well recently. He's 6-4 down against Josh Corkett, so needs to win the remaining 3 frames if he wants to book a place in the last 32. So, pretty simple equation facing Shane. 6-2 down, got to win all 5 of the remaining frames in this match if he's going to continue his participation in this tournament. Well, better break. The cue ball was still tracking in that same problematic direction, but came just inside the corner pocket that time. And at first glance, this is a pretty good opportunity. When you're 6-2 down, you can't really ask for the balls to be set much better than this. Right now it's a bit too far away to be thinking about winning the match, but just wants to get back into it. Knows that things can happen. If he could just clear up here and nick a frame against the serve in the next frame, suddenly it would only be 6-4. These red balls just absolutely perfect. As much as anything, he just wants to get in and pot a few balls right now. Hasn't quite had the chance to show off his skills to their maximum in this match. Can't really tell from looking at him whether he's 6-2 up or 6-2 down. That's a pretty important skill. That steady, even temperament, same pace, same cue action, regardless of the scoreline. So just going to have to travel a little bit with the cue ball. Just needs to go up and retrieve that ball that's nearest the top right corner pocket after this. Perfect angle though, just to screw up. Barely seemed to hit that, just gentle screw up the middle of the table. This will probably be the most difficult shot of the match, just to of the frame I should say, but only because the others have been so easy so far. Just needs to get himself decent shape on the black.
Just about plotting the course. That's not it. That's some margin short of what he was looking to do. He's looking to run across the face of the 8 ball and play it into the left middle. Now he's got a thin cut.
Oh,
no,
just thick.
I think that's all she wrote.
Yeah, I'll be disappointed with that. That looks such a presentable opportunity. It always just looked like that ball at the top of the table. He couldn't really find a way of getting to it earlier on, but it just looked like it might be a little bit harder to link up to the black. But you still wouldn't have expected him to miss. So, easiest of easy positions for Declan. Just roll these last balls in. He's going to be very happy with this. He'll be well aware that a 7-2 scoreline is more than he could really have expected against a player of Shane's quality. As it is, Declan's turned up with his A game and Shane's just turned up 1 or 2 notches short of the form that's taken him to so many trophies recently. Well, I was going to say, he's going to leave himself a bit of angle here. I don't think he wanted to leave himself as much as that.
Well, he's left this really thin, but good thing for him, he only really needs to pot it. Cue ball. He's going to have to come across the table. The angle's that much that there's no way he can hold. He's going to have to come across the table kind of 2.5 times. So this still could go wrong. He needs to hit it hard enough. Yeah, the pace looks perfect. That's a great shot.
Yeah, it was a position he didn't need to leave himself, but he's executed it well.
Really solid performance here from Declan. Impressive, impressive. You wouldn't be surprised at all to see him in the final. It's very nice from him against what could have been a very, very tough game. We're going to go down and catch a couple of words with Declan after that win to get his thoughts on it. But Mark, it's been a pleasure today. Thanks for your help. Much appreciated.
Well, what a great pool to watch. We'll let Nick go down and grab a word with Declan. Going to commiserate a bit with Shane Thompson. It wasn't quite his night. He'd have fancied it coming into this event, but came up short against an Irishman in rampant form.
Next match on table 1 is Rico Forgione, Harriet Haynes. Rico Forgione, Harriet Haynes, table 1.
Declan, you know when you look at the draw and you see that you've got Shane Thompson in there, he's a man on a hot streak of form at the moment. You know you're going to have to play your best. And that was the best of you, wasn't it?
Yeah, no, I played well, yeah. You raise your game when you're playing people like Shane, especially in the form he's in, but just want to see how it goes. So I'm playing well.
Yeah. Couple of in-offs from him. That changed the complexion of the game a little bit, but there was also a couple of missed balls from him. We haven't seen him miss much recently.
No.
Playing on the Ultimate Pool Series, he's really not missed much at all. But
No.
yeah, played into your hands there.
Well, it is. It's hard to keep up that standard all the time. You know, you're going to go through wee bad patches as well. Maybe this is the start of it for Shane, but I'm sure he'll be back soon.
Yeah. So you've obviously been playing a lot over here recently. Spent a lot of time around Stoke-on-Trent. Some good practice partners down there. Do you think that's helping your game?
Yeah, of course it is. Of course it is. Yeah, because back home there's not too many people to play, especially during the day and stuff as well. So, anytime over here, make the most of all the practice partners to have.
Yeah. How are you feeling generally?
Feeling good.
Yeah?
Feeling good. Yeah.
Another deep run this weekend?
We'll see what happens. You know.
You're not giving anything away, are you?
No, I'm not giving it to you too much.
Cheers, Declan. Thanks
Cheers,
for your time,
Thank
mate.
you.
Best of luck.
Cheers.